Shabbat Shalom. Our Parashat Beshalach. We're learning about Jewish people going out of Egypt. Pharaoh sent them away from Egypt, but then he regretting it and chasing them back. Jewish people went few days towards the desert, coming to the Red Sea, and there they have the sea in front of them, the desert in the sides, and the Egyptians behind them. Pharaoh took the biggest army in his times, 600 people on the carriages with horses, and he himself went, and very big army, and they chasing them. So there, the Midrash said that the Jewish people was divided to 4 groups, as Jewish people know to do, to divide to groups. And Jewish people debating what we're going to do right now. We know that they had all night to debate. So what were the opinions? One group said, we need to pray. One group said, we need to fight. One group said, we need to jump to the water, to die. And one group said, we need to fight the Egyptians. And they were all wrong. What was the right answer? So as the Torah said clearly, that God told Moshe, why you talking to me? Tell to the Jewish people to go into the water. And so there was one man that he knew that this is the right thing to do. His name was Nachshon ben Aminadav. He was the prince or the president or the leader of the tribe of Yehuda. He was brother-in-law of Aaron, the brother of Moshe. And he jumped into the water and started going straight until the water came very high and he couldn't go anymore. And then happened the splitting of the sea, the biggest miracle, that the water was split and the Jewish people went to the other side, and the Egyptians went after the Jewish people, and the water collapsed. So first of all, we have few points to see in this Midrash telling us very important message. The 2 important points is why they were wrong. So there is some groups that we can understand easily why they were wrong. To die, it's a bad idea. God did not took you out in order to die. But to pray, to fight, what's the problem? To go back to Egypt, of course, it's a bad idea. To pray to God, something that it seems very religious, very big believers would do that, would pray. To fight the Egyptians, it means that you're believing also in maybe that's God's plan, that the Jewish people will end the story of the Egyptians when they fighting the Egyptians and winning this war in a miracle way. So why this is also a bad idea? This is from one side. From the other side, why it's so obvious that we need to go into the water and this is the right course? Why this is the obvious idea that God expected from the Jewish people to do? So we will start from answering the last question. What was the reason behind going into the water? The reason was very, very simple. The reason was that the direction of Jewish people going out of Egypt was Mount Sinai. And Mount Sinai is in the other side of the water. So God taking the Jewish people outside Egypt. Where to? To Mount Sinai. Why? To receive the Torah. So where Jewish people need to go? To Mount Sinai. And this is the way. The way is going inside the water. So we need to go through the water. This is an answer that the previous Rebbe, father-in-law of the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, said once. And this is a very powerful answer. Why? Because this is not time to think about how I feel about what God wants from me, about how I big believer, about the powers that God invested in me. Those all good feelings are very good. But we, the Jewish people, standing in a situation that they must decide quick. This is for sure. And the best course of deciding is not praying to strengthen your belief. It's not to fight with the Egyptian. It means that you're sticking in the problem. You're still in war with the Egyptians. You need to choose the best course and the safest course. The safest course would be to do exactly what God told you to do. And this is to go to Mount Sinai. And if the way is through the water, we will also go in the water. It means that sometimes we're thinking that we have a challenge, the Egyptians. So some people would say, we cannot overcome this challenge. We should give up to this challenge. Go back to Egypt. Some people would say, a stronger idea. We will fight this challenge. This can be a good answer, but not always. Because when you're fighting challenge, it means that you're staying in the same level of the challenge. The challenge is there, distracting you. And you, in the same level, fighting with it. Sometimes he wins, sometimes the challenge wins. This is not the safest course. Even though maybe sometimes this is the right way, the challenge is there for you to overcome it by winning it. Sometimes people would say, I will not think about the challenge. I will just pray. What does that mean? You taking your mind off it, but you winning the challenge. It's not 100%. You thinking about God, you thinking about connection with God. Prayer is the discussion that every Jew have with God. So sometimes it's good, but this is the safest course to overcome challenges? Not necessarily. The best way is just to continue to do what God wants you to do. It's not about how you overcoming the challenges. It's about, do you going in the right path or not? And the safest way is just to stick to what we know for sure. This is what God wants us to do. And this is what we're going to do. What about the challenges? God will take care about the challenges. Because the challenges is there because God put them there. Sometimes you have many messengers. How the challenges will come. Maybe me, myself, was the messenger. I put my challenge to myself. But what is the best way to overcome the challenge? Is just to continue in the right path, the path that God gave us. To continue towards the Torah, towards the receiving of the Torah. This is also connected to the previous Rebbe himself, that yesterday was his passing day, and he was a symbol of continuing in the one path, the straight path. He was the Jewish leader in the beginning of Soviet times. In Russia he lived, and then he continued all his work, and he sent all the messengers to all corners of Jewish cities, or every city that was there Jews in the Soviet Union, that they will continue to observe Jewish life against all odds, against all challenges, against the spirit of Jewish people in that time that was not so uplifted to continue the Jewish tradition. And Jewish and Hasidic, his Hasidim, were going city by city, and sometimes one of the Hasidim was taking to the famous places that there they were killed, or the families didn't know even what happened to them. And in the same day came another Hasid to replace him. And what they did there, they teach Torah to kids, they built mikveh that people, women can go, and they sometimes did Jewish marriages, kosher food, and so all sort of Jewish principles that must be in order to live according to Jewish tradition. And that was his work. He continued, and only saw the path that God gave us. It's not about fighting them, it's not about praying, it's about continuing the work. And this is representing a very high connection with God. We can connect with God by praying, we can connect with God with understanding, with fighting God's fight, with learning even. It's all good. But sometimes the only connection that we can continue is the connection that God told us, this is the action that you must do. And this is the only way. Sometimes. Fortunately, we're living in times that most of the times we can learn, we can understand, we can feel, we can think about what we're learning in Jewish tradition and in the Torah, and what we're enjoying about doing when we're doing some mitzvot and so on. But sometimes we need to remember that we as Jews also have this connection with God, that this is about doing exactly what He wanted, and this is the safest way. Shabbat Shalom, and Bezrat Hashem only good news to everyone.